Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. We're so glad that you're here, whether you're watching this as a live podcast or if you're listening to us on our audio podcast. We're really glad that you decided to be in our audience. And today I want to mention this is a pre-recorded.
Is it pre-recorded?
It's a pre-recorded interview. So when you're making comments and we don't answer you, that's why, because we are not there. We are either in Gettysburg, having just finished over a week worth of investigations at Gettysburg, or we're on our way home.
One of those two.
Yeah.
You can use your imagination.
Yeah.
I want to remind everybody every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time here in the U.S., you can listen to WDJYFM.com, or if you're actually in the Atlanta area, 99.1 FM Atlanta, and hear our shows there. Also, Saturday evenings, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time here in the U.S. Episode Rewind is right here where you're watching this show right now. And every Wednesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time is Meet the Author Live, and our next guest is yet to be, depends on when the show actually airs. So we won't go down that path any further. Just tune in next week at 7 o'clock. So,
yes.
Without much further ado,
why
don't we bring on our guest for the evening, Mr. Stephen Panus.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Stephen.
Hey, Joan. Hello, Rob. How are you guys?
We're really great. Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
That's good.
Thank you.
So, tell us a little bit about yourselves. Yourself. There are not two of you, as far as I know. Yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Stephen Panus. I am a sports marketing executive. I've been in the agency world, the media world, the PR marketing world for 30 plus years. I went to the University of South Carolina. I'm originally from upstate New York, a small town outside Rochester, Victor. And I'm married with two boys, Jake and Liam, and now one daughter, April.
That's wonderful. How old is April?
April is 18.
Good. That's wonderful.
Yep, she's headed to college. She's a great girl.
That's great. I'm glad to hear it. So, where did you say? In upstate New York?
Near Rochester.
Near Victor. We used to live in Ithaca.
Oh yeah, that's not far.
No.
It's pretty close.
We
gotta love the winters.
Exactly.
Yeah. You gotta love the winters because you only have about 3 months that are not winter.
Well, that's why I left when I was 18.
Yeah, Connecticut is a little bit better, I have to say. My goodness. So tell us about your book. Let me put the cover up right here so people can.
Yeah, so the name of my book is Walk On, and it's a tribute to my late son, Jake, who was 16 years old when he was killed. And it's also inspiration for his beloved younger brother, and hopefully for many others, and as it takes the reader on my journey of turning my pain into purpose.
And how did you turn your pain into purpose?
That's a great question. It took a lot of time, took a lot of effort, grit, resilience, tenacity, because this, when you lose a son, 16 years, you're not supposed to bury your children.
No.
It's out of the natural order. And I was blown to smithereens. The news was absolutely soul-crushing for us. We found out via phone. So it was sudden and traumatic. And I probably, I don't even remember much of the first year. And it wasn't until nearly halfway into the second year that I started to even care about anything other than just surviving and making sure my family survived.
Yeah.
You go to a very, very dark place, and I was knocked down like never been knocked down, and grief is an individual journey. So Liam and Kellie, my wife, and I share this tragedy. We each grieve completely differently. It presents its own array of challenges as you try to support one another.
Yeah, it's got to be really, really horrible. And we should mention that your son passed really recently. It was in 2020, right?
August 9th, 2020, correct.
Yeah. And that was in mid of all the COVID stuff also. So you guys really were hit with a double whammy.
It didn't help anything, I'm sure.
No. That had to be really rough.
Yeah, it was lonely.
I
we're all
can't even imagine.
And we were fortunate in that we were able to have people convene at our church for memorial for Jake, but the seats were staggered and we were limited to the number of people that could come in, but it was very important that we were able to gather in some way to memorialize him.
Absolutely. It's just a really difficult time for that. Not that there's a good time. I don't mean that. I mean,
no.
One of my sister's husband was killed in an automobile accident when she was very young and their children were very young. And I remember what that felt like. It felt like somebody had ripped part of my soul right out of me. And that was just my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
So we've never gone through that.
Yeah.
And
sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Well, we're very sorry for your loss. It just has to be an immense, like you said, staggering, where it just, how do you get up in the morning? How do you go on?
There's a void, unquestionably. Jake was a huge personality and a kid that lived life to the max and brought joy everywhere and had a magnetic energy. He was the type of person that when he walked in the room, everybody knew it. Unmistakable blonde, curly afro, and this perpetual smile. So he was one of a kind.
Was he an athlete?
Yep, he played football and lacrosse. Loved being on teams because he loved gatherings. So the more the merrier.
Mm-hmm.
Real magnetic spirit.
And how much younger is Liam than Jake?
So Liam is 5 years younger. So he was 11. Wow. He was 11 when this happened. And part of my reason to write the book was one day I looked at Liam and I was like, wow, I'm 52 years old and I'm struggling. And so an 11-year-old boy, how is he even supposed to grapple with this?
Yeah.
I knew that I had to, as broken as I was, I had to be there for Liam. I had to show him there was a way out of this hell, that we would do it together. And I actually took him across our property to, I asked him to get his buck knife. And I said, meet me over there. And he came out and I had him carve out a swath of the bark. And he said he did it. He complied. And he was like, okay, what now, Dad? And I said, well, we're going to watch this tree regrow new bark. And it's going to cover up this hole. It's going to be different. It's going to feel different, look different. It's not going to be the same, but it's going to cover it up enough to protect the light in it. And that is the same message that's going to happen to us, Liam. And I wanted him to know that it takes time, but we too will one day be back on our feet. We're not going to be the same people. When you look at it from Liam's perspective, he didn't just lose his brother. He lost part of his mom, part of his dad that day. So a total trifecta of tragedy for an 11-year-old boy.
Yeah. And all of you are trying to function as a family. And still trying to cope with your own grief in your own way. That had to be really, really hard.
Yeah,
and it seems like you're a real tight-knit family, so even worse,
yeah, we're close, and we definitely lean on and support one another. But this is an ongoing process. I mean, we're coming up on 4 years, and we triggered, really. It doesn't take much to trigger a bereaved parent. And we had it happen last night, my wife and I, and we just sat there up in bed, just staring at the ceiling, just immediately transported back.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything about it. It happens. You just have to learn to just don't fight it. Just go with it. It's going to be like getting hit by a huge wave. And some days that's a 200-foot wave. Some days it's a 5-foot wave.
Mm-hmm.
But you just absorb it.
That's PTSD.
Yeah.
That's
100%.
how it goes. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's rough. It's really rough. I said we never lost a child, but we have lost a child.
Mm-hmm.
But before the child was born. But that's still, we had 6 children, and I had a miscarriage, and I had to go in for an ultrasound and all that stuff to see what they need to do. And the technician who was doing the ultrasound said to me, "How many children do you have?" And I said, 6. And I was laying there, and tears were coming down my face. I wasn't crazy crying, just tears were coming down my face. And she said, "Why are you upset?"
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, people, we were warned, ministers obviously got the news and returned from a vacation to be with us the night Jake died. And they said, they said a couple of things that I'll never forget. And one of them was like, be prepared for people to say really awful things that are going to sound awful to you, but it's well-intentioned, but it's just going to land so flat.
Mm-hmm.
People are very, grief is a very foreign experience for people because we're taught to not talk about it, not deal with it, sweep it under the rug, get back on the proverbial horse and get back in the game of life. And but it doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And as you said, everyone who grieves has their own coping mechanism, and there's no right or wrong way to grieve. Well, you need to grieve.
Amen.
That's how you need to grieve.
Listen more than you speak. So
I say, listen. Listen is the most important thing, and let that person talk about their loved one who's gone.
Yeah. And I'm sorry for what you had to go through, Joan. But it's true. We got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right?
Right.
Yes,
true.
That's very true. I know when my sister's husband was killed, and she was really young, and he was young, and I'd known them both forever. And my mother said to me one day, "The only time that she cries is when you talk to her. So I don't know what you're saying, but you need to stop." I said, "I let her talk about him, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
That's why she cries." And she said, "Well, you shouldn't do that." And I said, "Yeah, Ma, it's what she needs. She needs to talk about him. She needs to be angry. She needs to rail at the universe and be angry with God and, go through all kinds of stuff and have somebody listen and know that it's just part of the process, part of her process." And like I said, everybody processes differently.
You're so correct, Joan. It is an individual journey. You cannot relate to anyone. You can try to relate, but it's their grief is their grief, and just allow it.
Mm-hmm.
And learn to be okay around it. Yeah, it's dark, it's scary, but it's also life, right? Because death is indiscriminate. It's universal. We all know what awaits. We just don't want to think about it. It's funny. I was thinking this the other day. We spend a lot of time around celebrating the birth of a child, right? And I think you can get 12 weeks of time off, unpaid, but you get time off without risking your job. But when your child dies, Most people get about 3 days. Then they're supposed to get back to work. And let me just say that is freaking possible in 3 days, let alone 3 months, let alone 11.
How can you function? You can't.
Yeah. It's I was just blown away. I couldn't think. I had the shakes. I was a shell of myself. I was fortunate. I had a really good boss too, who gave me plenty of time, but not everyone is.
Yeah, not everyone has that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
So it'd be nice to see maybe some laws changed to address that, and give people some space to grieve and time. It's important. We're human beings, right?
Well, it took a long time for our society to come up with, or our corporate society, I should say, come up with, parental leave, extended leave for when you have a baby, when the kid comes into the world.
Yeah. Amen.
So it may take a while for that to happen.
Well, when we had our kids, it was only maternity. It wasn't parental.
It was just maternity. Mm-hmm. So things are making slow change, but, maybe that'll be something that somebody could pick up the banner for and lobby for that kind of thing. Bereavement, yeah. Longer bereavement, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because most companies they're just concerned about the company,
And this happened to you at such a terrible, terrible time. And right at the beginning of COVID, right in the beginning of the lockdown, and everybody was going COVID crazy. So, I mean, I don't even know, how you did that. I think about how COVID affected regular people, never mind people dealing with loss.
Right.
I think we probably did it because our brain has such limited capacity that the only thing you were focused on from August 9th, 2024 on was survival. One day to the next, and trying to, absorb the news and the shock and everything that comes with that. Because it's kind of like Chernobyl. It just keeps blowing out and affecting more and more things and more aspects of your life. So that's kind of the fallout of it. But thankfully, the book is more hopeful and inspirational in that I show that there is a pathway out and that the answers all reside within us. We don't need to seek out external items or things for help. The answers are within us. You got to want to do it. You got to have the fortitude, the grit, the resilience, the humility, the gratitude, and forgiveness, and many other things, many other important values and attributes. And I touch on those in the book, and it kind of stems from a tradition I had with Jake. When he turned 5 and was beginning to read, I started writing him morning messages on little Post-it sticky notes, and there were quotes or adages or truisms, my own messages from time to time, and I would stick them on his brown lunch bag or his kitchen island, where he sat, and he would read them. Sometimes we'd talk about them, sometimes we wouldn't. We'd read them to Liam because he wasn't old enough to read, or he was just learning to hear, and and the goal was to impart wisdom and compassion and inspiration into their developing heart, mind, and souls, and teach them what matters most in life, and that's the roadmap to a life of purpose and meaning. And when I revisited those quotes and those messages, I wrote them because my wife thankfully saved all my little sticky notes over the years. They look different, and I had to make sense of them. I had to find truth in them. And in doing so, that helped me model it back for Liam and say, okay, hop on. We're doing this together. We're getting out. We're standing up today, right? Putting on our clothes today. We're going to work. We're going to school. We're doing whatever we have to do. We're leaning on each other. We're there when one needs to cry, or one needs to just punch a boxing bag for 5 minutes.
Right.
And that's what the book does. It shares a lot of the quotes I share with my boys, and some new ones, and takes the reader on the journey of pain to purpose.
Okay, on that note, we'll take our first break, and
Okay.
we'll be right back. Stay tuned, please. This is a very important message, and you never know who you might need to pass this on to if you don't even need it yourself. You never know.
All right. Be right back, folks.
It's every parent's worst nightmare. Police officer Madison Jackson awakes to discover her baby kidnapped from her crib. Was it revenge for someone she arrested, or something far more sinister? Madison's estranged husband is incarcerated in Supermax. As the second in command of a deadly Mexican cartel, did he issue the order to abduct their daughter? Bye, Baby, Bye, from author Kellie Marshall. Get your copy today.
Many secrets are hidden within the darkness of the jungle. Now comes part 4 in the Jaguar series by retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. In this saga, Brandon, Andrea, and Naja, the Black Jaguar, go deep into the Mato Grosso jungle on a mission to rescue 2 kidnapped children. During their journey, they encounter many dangers, including Yanomami Indians, bent on revenge for the murder of one of their warriors.
Return of the Jaguar is book 4 in the Jaguar series, starting with 2 faces of the Jaguar, the Lost City, and the Jaguar's Quest. All 4 are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other bookseller websites worldwide. Return of the Jaguar is a must-read.
The clock is ticking. Can Gracie uncover the truth?
Philip Pliant is the wealthy opportunist plastics dealer and CEO of Pliant Industries. He's also a master thief, creating a pervasive threat to the manufacturing infrastructure in the Caribbean islands markets. With the cartel as his stealth client, the naive city leaders have been seduced, enabling the production of more than 3-dimensional building materials.
The expected profits are monstrous.
Is the art group, now led by Gracie and the family heirs, strong enough to win against this predator?
Can JJ's cats act on the root cause analysis in time?
Will Gracie be able to squash Pliant and the cartels?
Gracie never considered their lives would hang in the balance. The clock is ticking. 5, 4, 3.
And we're back.
And we are.
First of all, I want to say thank you so much, Stephen, for coming on the show and sharing with everybody what your process has been and what your journey has been. Again, we're really sorry for your loss. It's really raw and new. And I appreciate your openness, and I think really your book can be a big help to people that, like I said, are going through it or have someone that they know that is going through it.
Yeah, so true. I always say now that our vulnerability is our strength, because as men, we're taught to hide our emotions, not cry, get knocked down, get back up again. And all that works in many things in life. But when you lose a child, that stuff doesn't work like it does in the other areas. So, I lost my train of thought, and that happens.
That's okay.
From the brain damage.
Yeah, I know. It's really hard. Let me read this, your little log here. Walk On by Stephen Panus, a brave and beautifully written book about unbearable loss and a father's never-ending battle to honor a son. Right? This is good that Jake's life can bring healing and purpose to other people.
Let me ask you, you mentioned your minister, and can you talk a little bit about how the church has helped?
Yeah, so Jake and our minister, Associate Minister Laura Whitmore, were very close. And she's also the leader of our church mission trips out to South Dakota. And Jake went out his freshman year at the senior youth group, is allowed to participate. So as soon as he could, he did. And we went out his first year with Laura and 19 other teenagers, and they helped young Lakota children learn to read and learn life skills and just play with them and love on them and
awesome
listen to them. And he came home from that experience changed. He was headed into his sophomore year, and he first wanted to help them. He recognized the incongruities and inequalities that existed between how he lived as a 15 year-old boy and how they were living. And he was upset by it and wanted to do something about it. And obviously 2020 rolled around. He couldn't go back because of COVID. And then Jake died 2 months later. And that led us to start the first of 2 scholarship funds recreated to honor Jake's legacy of lifting up others and spreading joy. And so we created the Jake Panus Walk-On Scholarship at Red Cloud Indian School in partnership with our church, Southport Congregational. And we've, over 3 years, we've awarded 3 young Lakota young women with college scholarships, first generation. I went out there in May of 2022 and handed out the first of the 2 scholarships. And when I saw the joy and the elation and the gratitude in the face of the young women, it was amazing and it was meaningful. And I also saw Jake, parts of Jake in their eyes, and that means a lot to a bereaved father, that people are still saying his name. People are still talking about him. More importantly, people are still seeing him and hearing from him. And carrying on. And my job as his father this is the only future I have with him. I've lost his high school graduation, going to college, going to ball games with them, graduating, meeting his fiance, grandkids, you name it. Every major life milestone is evaporated. So I have to create my own future with him. And my way to do it is to honor him. And I really feel like I'm just carrying his legacy on, and he's coming through me. And I was never one to seek out public speaking or writing a book and putting all my feelings, out there for everyone to examine or consume. It was never my game. But when I lost him, my whole life changed. My perspective on living changed. I learned how little we control. There's this illusion of control that we all live with, thinking, oh, nothing's going to happen. It's not to us, at least, right? Nothing's going to happen to us until it does. And, I blame myself, even though I wasn't at the accident when Jake was killed. And I wasn't even in the state. And I blamed myself for, one, not protecting him, because that's my job as his father. So I felt like a failure there. And I learned, though, that there wasn't anything I could have done. It's not my fault. And it took time, but I came to accept that and accept that this is free will. And God didn't have a hand in it. My wife's still mad at him.
That's okay.
But that's, yeah. And we believe what we want to believe, and we each have our faith.
And, God can take it. We used to be in the ministry. We're retired pastors. And we would tell people, go ahead, be angry with God. He won't be angry back. He's just going to love you back. He can take it. And if you read the Psalms, David used to yell and scream at God. And then once he got that out, he would praise God. So it's good for your soul to release all of that and get that all out. Get all the ugly out. That's what it's meant to do.
Yeah.
And as Christians, we should be there for each other to let them be as ugly as they need to be, because the beauty is going to come later.
Yeah. And that's why we're here, to love one another, to lift up one another, to support one another. It's that simple. We get so caught up in details. When you lose a child or anyone suddenly, your life just flips on its head, and you look at everything differently. I laugh when I hear people complaining about little things. I'm like, man, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
About somebody who should wear a mask or not wear a mask, for example.
Yeah, whatever. Exactly. I mean, it's like, agree to disagree and move on, right?
Exactly.
We don't have to hate on each other. We're all entitled to our faith just as much as we're all entitled to our opinion.
I agree.
Right.
And everyone should be allowed to live the life that they've chosen to live. And we can still love them, even if they choose a different path than we choose.
Yeah. I always look at it like this. Like, America's this big radio bar in your car, and you can tune to any channel you want. So if you want country, you're going to find country. If you want classic rock, you're going to find that. And that's how we should live. If you don't tune into someone, that's fine. Move on to the next person. You might tune in, but you don't have to hate because you don't tune in.
Exactly. Right. Or you don't understand. So
yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah,
you don't connect.
Move along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. We spent some time in South Dakota, right near where the Lakota living campus was, where you could take tours and stuff like that. Right. We stayed in the Badlands.
It's beautiful country. Absolutely beautiful.
Amazing.
It's crazy. It's really crazy. We camped in the Badlands, and we also camped in, what was the name of that little town? Custer. Yeah. Custer. Which was right outside of Crazy Horse. Did you go to Crazy Horse?
I did. Yeah. We went to Crazy Horse, Custer. We hiked Black Elk's Peak on Jake's birthday to honor him. And that was super special. Liam, myself, and Laura, the minister. It was a great time out there. And the people, the Lakota people, are beautiful people, gentle, caring. It's just, and we've treated them so poorly. It's just terrible. And it breaks my heart what they had to endure.
You're singing my song. I've been saying this for years. We went to Crazy Horse, and I spent the day crying. And then we went there at night to watch that night. I don't know if you got to do this, but they put a show on the mountain. It has beautiful music. And then, the original sculptor, who now, of course, has passed away, retells the whole story about how it happened and why he did it and all the things.
It's a beautiful film.
Oh,
isn't it?
Yeah.
I said to him when we were going back that night, I said, do you think that they're going to make me cry again? He said, oh, without a doubt, they're going to make you cry again.
Yeah. And how his children picked up where he left off. It's
10 of them.
Yeah. It's such a unique story.
Yeah. And he's from Massachusetts, Natick.
Yep.
I'm from Massachusetts.
And he's Polish. And my dad was Polish, so that was cool.
He is Polish. He was Polish. Yes.
Yeah.
So if people want to contribute to the scholarship fund,
oh yes,
is the address in your book, or can you tell us where they can?
Is it on your website?
It's on my website. It's in the book.
Okay,
perfect.
Website StephenPanus.com, and you can go there. You can learn more about the book. You can make a donation. You can book me as a speaker. You can send me an email if you just need someone to listen. It's all there. You can read the news stories about Jake that have run and from coast to coast and hopefully continue to do.
They will.
Yeah.
And so Stephen's website is stephenpanus.com, and that's StephenPanus. All right. And you can find all of your social media, every place, every way that you can get in touch with Stephen, and make a donation. Buy the book, make a donation, buy the book as a gift.
Those are overlooked people that need your help.
Yeah. In the book, honestly, transcends grief. It really is about any form of adversity, and grief is just one of them. And that was my part of my adversity, right? But we all struggle and we all suffer in some way, shape, or manner, but we all collectively have the answers inside of us. We just have to dig deep in those dark, dark moments and keep our eye believing, never lose hope. And there's a way out.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that it's easy. It's hard, and that's okay too. You'll get through, right?
One day at a time, 1 hour. It was 1 hour at a time, one day at a time.
Yeah.
But it's something you live with. There's a void. It's an immense void in your life,
Yes.
in your body. It changes literally everything. And but you do move on. You learn to integrate it, and that's what I've done by trying to honor Jake and carry him forward through his legacy of lifting other kids up and giving them opportunities. You know, I get to speak more and maybe write another book and just try to help people. This is about helping others, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's the game.
Yes. And he will live on. That book is here forever. And he will live on, and through the scholarship. That's wonderful. It's amazing. I'm so glad that you're doing that, especially with the Lakotas. That's really amazing. I'm really so happy to hear that.
Thank you. Yeah.
When our son was 13, he went on a mission to Mexico, and he helped build a house in a barrio, like a place where, people really just lived in cardboard houses and maybe a little corrugated tin roof and stuff like that. And he was there for his birthday. So when they finished building the house, the leader of the mission allowed him to give the key to the family. And to this day, our son remembers the father of the family worked on a cruise ship, and he left this dirt place, just all dirt roads and dirt houses and everything, with his beautiful white clothes, carrying them in a bag, and his perfect white shoes as he left to go on the ship for 6 or 7 months, having to leave his wife and his children there. But now they had a home because they had just built them a home. And he was only 13, and he never forgot that for the rest of his life. So I know for a fact that your son did come back changed and probably would have done great things, but I'm so glad that you're doing great things in his honor and giving him that purpose.
It really does.
It does. Yes. Because that was meaningful to him.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and take our last break here, and then come back. Got a few more things to talk about. So don't go away, folks.
An unforgettable mystery thriller that will transport you back to 17th century England. Introducing Dream of Courage, facing fear head on, your passport to 17th century mystery, mayhem, and murder. Follow Robert and John Rushworth through Leeds' bustling Briggate district, where danger lurks in the shadows, embodied by the thief-taker Jacob Wilding. You will laugh, you will cry, and be in awe of the twists and turns. Its meticulous attention to character development, emotional nuance, and the unfolding of the story's layers promise a compelling and emotionally charged journey. The U.S. National Times said, "Modern writers usually don't know what it was like to live in the past, but Rushworth Brown does this with great skill." Uncover the secrets of Smythe, the enigmatic tavern keeper who sends Robert to the Haven, to the pirate Captain Girlington. Will he outweed danger in the nick of time?
It's 1919, and Eric Laska returns from the war in Europe. 2 new enemies await him in the small, coal-mining town he calls home. One is a threat to his relationship with Rebecca, the love of his life. The other, a bloodthirsty beast, is stalking the mining town residents. The townspeople suspect Eric of one of the killings. An old man and Rebecca's 11-year-old sister have seen the beast, but only Eric believes their story. To protect the town and clear his name, he's forced to prove the werewolf exists. Available on Amazon. The Horror Within by Marjorie Swift Doring.
Paradise, My Prison. Charlie Flint awakens from a deep sleep and finds himself alone on a tropical beach surrounded by a palm tree jungle and exotic animals. He cannot remember who he is or anything about his life. First, he must find food and build shelter and protect himself from hidden dangers. As his memory gradually returns, it reveals what a very flawed person he is. A man who made too many mistakes, made too many enemies. The implications of the truth are staggering. How did Charlie get there? And will he save himself? Paradise, My Prison is the riveting new suspense thriller from retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. Paradise, My Prison by George Dismukes is available in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats worldwide.
And we're back.
Hello.
Well, we appreciate so much you being with us here today to talk about this. I know it has to be difficult for you. And I really appreciate that you wrote the book. I mean, that had to be hard.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your publishing journey, how it came about?
I originally started writing a goodbye letter to Jake. So it didn't start out to be a book. It started just a letter. And that was hard, painful, and it took a while. And then I let it sit. And that's when somehow the universe brought me and my old Post-it notes back together again. And I started looking at them. And that's when I knew that that's what I needed to write about, to make sense for Liam. And then I did that. And when I finished it, I said, there's a greater message in here that I think can help others, like Liam, or just other kids. It helps everyone, right? There's lessons in the book for literally everyone, no matter your age. And they're just simple life lessons and values and attributes that we should all adopt more. And this place would be a hell of a lot better. And all the proceeds from the book support the 2 scholarship funds, the aforementioned one at Red Cloud Indian School in the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and then the second exists at the University of South Carolina for a walk-on football player. We've awarded 3 scholarships there in 3 years, and we'll keep handing out scholarships and lifting kids up until my last breath. And hopefully and beyond, one of those kids will pick up the baton and pass it on. They're all
Liam and April can pass it on.
Totally.
You didn't mention, but people should know that April is a foster daughter. So that's why she's 18 and wasn't around.
Correct. And, it's funny. My wife actually said shortly after Jake passed, Jake's gonna send us someone. When the time is right, Jake's going to send us someone. And a couple of years later, we put the word out with our mister, hey, if you ever hear of a child needing a home, love, let us know. No matter the background, the issue, whatever. And in February of last year, we went away to get out of here in the wintertime and also just to decompress as a family and take a break from grieving. And we went to Barbuda and Antigua, and we were in Barbuda, a pretty remote island, when I got a text from our minister that said, hey, there's this young woman. She comes from a tough background and some tough circumstances, and she needs a home. And I just wrote yes in capital letters before I went over to Kel and told her. And then Kellie connected with the social workers, and it's been incredibly seamless. It forced us. Maybe, we hadn't touched Jake's room, and it forced us to go in there and deal with that and put a little feminine touch on it. But there's 2 eerie parts to this story. Is one, that when Jake was younger, he always drew family pictures, and he included a sister. And he talked about he had a sister, and he would tell people he had a sister. And the other eerie part is, a month before we went on that trip, my wife had some grief counseling sessions with a woman. It didn't really work out, and the woman said, well, I'm also a medium. I'll give you a session for free to kind of make up for it. She said, fine. My wife isn't really a believer, and the woman during the session said, Jake is here, and he's showing me, this is 2 weeks or about a month before April comes in our life. She's showing me a picture of a young woman wearing a red hat with the letter A on it. And at the time, she asked me, and I said, I don't know, University of Alabama, Atlanta Braves. I'm not really sure. Arkansas. It didn't mean anything until after, when April came in our lives, and we look back at that, we're like, wow, red was her school color. She's an amazing girl who has more drive than anybody I've ever seen. She wants to go to law school. She's already received a full scholarship to college. She'll be a freshman, and she has determination and drive. She's got curly hair like Jake. She's a lefty like Jake. She reminds us of Jake at times. It's scary, but it's been so positive. And for that, I have immense gratitude because I recognize that not many, if any, bereaved parents are lucky enough to have a kid come back into their world. It's not the same. It's not Jake, but it's April, and we love her just the same, and she's part of our family forever. And it's been really incredible. She saved my wife's life, and we've saved April's, and that's how we look at it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I bet since April came in, your wife can talk about Jake without breaking down and crying and feeling like her heart's going to fall apart every time. I'm sure.
Good for each other. She needed more female energy in the house, she said.
There you go.
Poor Rob. We have 5 daughters and 1 son.
Yeah.
Oh, but we have 11 grandsons and only 3 granddaughters. So
turned it around in a grand
you
scale.
guys are blessed. You're blessed.
Yeah. That's he got his male energy in spades. And I was just like, what is happening to my house? These boys were very different.
Our get-togethers were
A little louder, I'm sure.
really something. Yeah. They all kind of played a little differently.
Oh my gosh, they never stopped. We'd have dinner in our house every Sunday, and we had a pool, and they would literally leapfrog over each other in the furniture, going in and out of the house to be in the pool. It's boys are different. So I understand your wife needing some female energy. It's a totally different ballgame. Now, how's Liam doing now?
Yeah, Liam is doing, thanks for asking, Joan. Liam's doing a lot better. He struggled for the first 2 years. It's really hard. As an 11-year-old boy should. Those are immense, traumatic feelings, and it's hard to know as an adult what to do with them and how to cope. And so how was an 11-year-old boy supposed to do? But he persevered. We ended up changing his schools for 8th grade, and he really blossomed in 8th grade, started to come back to himself a little bit, or just really come back alive. And he's a freshman now. He's doing great. He's in the track and field team, throws the javelin. He's looking forward to summer like most kids right about now. Liam is doing a lot better, and he talks about it. He just went through his confirmation process and had to write his own faith statement. And he talked about how he lost his faith and how he regained it over time with a lot of self-reflection and his own reading of the Bible.
I'm really glad he was able to do that. And
Yes.
that's okay too. It's okay to lose your faith. All those things are okay.
Yeah.
God for
Part
sure
of the journey.
Yeah, and God understands. He really does. I just want to bring this up again.
Yeah. What's the significance of the bear?
So I got my wife a bear pendant, like a Native American bear pendant years ago. When Jake came back from the mission trip, he made it into a necklace and started wearing it. And the bear represents protection, healing, courage, among other things in Native American lore. And Jake lost that necklace about a month, 2 months before he went to Block Island, where he was fatally killed. And we looked for that prior to Jake's death. And we multiple times with Jake, his friends, Liam, Kellie and I were on our hands and knees. We combed everywhere and we couldn't find it. And then 2 months after Jake died, we were sitting at the beach about half mile from our house on the coast of Connecticut and just staring out into the abyss. And Kellie said to me, it was a Wednesday, I think. There was nobody there when we put our chairs out. And she said, I wish we knew somebody with a metal detector. And I turned on my right, and there's a guy walking down the beach. He's at the far end coming towards us with a metal detector. And I was like that? And she was like, oh my gosh. She told him the story, and he gave her his card and said he'd call and we'd schedule a time. So we went back to just staring out at the sea, lost in grief and just trying to escape into nature. And 45 minutes later, this truck screeches up behind us, and it's the gentleman with the metal detector. And he says, how's now work? And we said, great. So we packed up our stuff real quick. We hopped in the car, and I turned to her and I said, I got a feeling Jake's going to help us find it. And we get back there, and the guy's out with the metal detector. My wife and I are on our hands and knees again. All of a sudden, my wife screams, I found it. And she pulls it up with a big handful of dirt and sod and weeds. And it was the first time she smiled in 2 months, and recapturing that bear meant a lot. And so the bear has taken on a big meaning for the scholarships, and is almost like our logo. And it represents so much things that we all need, right? Protection and healing and courage.
Right.
But Jake wasn't wearing it, and we lost him on August 9th.
I'm very sorry. That's really, really hard. And you're really brave to write the book.
Yes.
And I'm really sorry you have to go through all the marketing. Because I know that's very difficult to market a book.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's just about helping others. So the more people that I can tell about it, whether they've gone through a financial crisis, they've had a relationship fail, they stumbled at work and maybe got passed over and they're disappointed, maybe depressed. Whatever the case is, you got a bad diagnosis. There's so many forms of adversity that we all have to find our way to walk on in life. And that's the double, triple meaning of this book. I had to walk on. The Native Americans say that walk on is what we all do when we leave this planet. And then the scholarship at South Carolina is for the walk-on football players. So it's connected in a triangle, but we all do have to walk on. We all carry invisible backpacks of our own disappointments, pain, suffering, whatever. And yet you have a choice. It really is that simple. You can quit or you can crawl. And I chose to crawl. I'm an optimist. Yeah. And so it was helpful to have that, what little optimism still existed, but mostly it was hope. And I was able to bounce off the floor after getting knocked down like I've never been hit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's really wonderful. We're proud of you.
Yes.
Glad that you wrote the book.
Yeah, thanks for talking about Walk On and getting the word out. The sale proceeds support the scholarship funds. Just trying to help more children, just like Jake would want, and to carry his enduring legacy forward of lifting up others and spreading joy.
And again, please buy the book.
Yeah.
Buy it for a friend and know that you're helping the Lakotas. And if you'd ever been to South Dakota, you'd understand how they live. They need a lot of help. Yeah. The Navajos need water. We've been promising them water for hundreds of years, and we've never given it to them. There's a lot that we can do for our indigenous people.
Yeah. Yep. They need everything. That's the reality. And the book's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Target, you name it. It's out there in like 30,000 different ways to find it. So hopefully people who need a little lift, know someone who needs a lift, check out Walk On.
There you go.
I want to ask you one more question before we have to sign off. How long did it take you to write the book?
It took me about a little over a year. Excuse me, a little over a year. I went and stopped. It starts at the beginning because it just hurt, and but it was a process, and one that I obviously needed to go through. I needed to puke up a lot of stuff first and do a lot of heavy editing. But that process needed to unfold like that.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, good for you. A lot of courage, and we're really happy that you did it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to move you over to the side.
Thanks, guys.
And
thank you.
Wish you all the best here in the future.
Amen.
All right. Well, that's sobering.
Yes.
I want to remind everybody, Thursday nights, 9 o'clock, WDJYFM.com, 99.1 FM if you're in the Atlanta area. Our shows are there. Saturday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, episode rewind. And Wednesday, 7 o'clock, Meet the Author live, right here where you're watching right now. Join us next week. And I guess until that time.
That's all, folks. Good night.
Night.
Live every Wednesday, your Voice of Indie hosts Beam Weeks and Stephen Gees welcome authors, musicians, publishing industry pros, artists, and assorted creative guests for an exciting interactive hour. Call in during the show or post questions and comments on Twitter for responses in real time. Meet your favorite indie creators, learn inside tips, network, and promote your work. The link for each week's show is pinned on Twitter atop @VoiceOfIndie. And you can receive the link every Wednesday morning in your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter at freshinkgroup.com. Check out Voice of Indie every Wednesday on Blog Talk Radio and catch hundreds of episodes archived everywhere from our websites to our YouTube channel and Spotify.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DV.com.